All right, so this is my Frostblink Ignite Elementalist. It's one of the fastest League starters that I've ever played, and it can go from a comfortable SSF, full solo self-found, picked up off the ground League start, get your first 2 Void Stones, get through tier 16 maps, all the way up to a full softcore trade, high investment monster, able to take down uber bosses and most of the hardest content in the game. It's built around using Frostblink with the Shaper of Flames Elementalist notable, allowing cold damage to ignite. Frostblink's cooldown is reduced by the number of monsters that it hits, so you can blink from pack to pack with almost no delay between casts. Frostblink linked with Ignite proliferation support will spread throughout the screen and kill everything that you see. For single target, it leverages the absolute busted damage of Fire Trap to melt your bosses. My guides from the previous 2 videos go into extreme detail about all you need to know about this build, with leveling documents and videos as well as crafting information. The rest of this video is intended just as supplementary material where I go over the changes from the patch notes. Mostly it did get kind of nerfed, so at the top end that it's going to be a little bit worse. However, on League start scenario, it's basically identical. There's no changes whatsoever. Just things like losing the boot enchant, stuff like that, do make it a little bit worse on the high end. So yeah, if you want to play this build, if you want to play my favorite League starter of all time, I really, really love this build. I would love to play it again, but I'm just playing something different this league for a little bit of variety. You cannot go wrong with this build. Welcome back, Frostblink fans. I would love to play this build myself, like I said in the intro. I'm going to play SRS. I'm happy with that choice. It's a great build. You can't go wrong with it. But man, just doing the little demo recordings for this build, just a few minutes ago, and feeling how awesome this build feels, especially when you get to a little bit higher investment. Oh man. All right, I'm jealous. But yeah, going over the changes that they made this league, it's all negative primarily, unfortunately. We haven't seen all of the alternate quality gems. They showed a Frostblink one that doesn't have a cooldown, but it has a cast time, and that's not for this build, but you can definitely do some fun stuff with that. But yeah, in terms of what actually changed, I actually think the biggest one that's going to hurt the quality of life that you would go for pretty early is the boot enchant. So previously you could get, I think it was 120%. It was like 90 and maybe 120% increased critical strike chance if you haven't crit recently. And the big thing that this build does is it uses Elemental Overload to give you a 40% more damage buff for that skill. The thing is, you have to crit, and this is, Elemental Overload is also a non-crit build, so you have to have just enough crit chance to, you want to be able to crit every 8 seconds or so just to keep that uptime. And since we're not investing into crit whatsoever, yeah, if we look here on Frostblink, right, the base crit chance is 6%. And that's just not enough. The ideal thing that you would go for is the increased crit chance on the boots. So that would just give you enough. If you haven't crit recently, then you can get that uptime of Elemental Overload. So what you're going to want to do is something like this, which I was actually already recommending, to the point where maybe you'd even put a Diamond Flask with crit chance on it, just to keep that crit chance high enough. So my crit chance with the Flask goes up to 8.3%. And then with a Diamond Flask, we'd get over 10%, 10, 11%. And then that would be enough, right? If you're frost blinking at least 10 times every 8 seconds, so you'll have a good uptime of that. Same thing with Fire Trap, right? You can kind of preload your Fire Trap on bosses. You can usually get 3 to 5 of them out before the boss really starts spawning. So that is a thing that sucks. I actually think that losing the boot enchants was really big for a lot of builds. I keep seeing people on Reddit with these cook takes saying, oh, boot enchants, no big deal, whatever. But just little comfy ones like increased 16% increased attack and cast speed, the crit chance, 80% stun avoidance. They were so big. And I think that was a big nerf overall to quality of life, period. So previously, Fire Trap would get 20% increased damage on the quality for it, and now it went to like 80% increased trap trigger AoE, which like you never cared about the trigger AoE anyway. Since we're Ignite based, we're not trying to like trigger it really quickly. We just really care about it. If it goes off eventually, right, it's going to trigger the Ignite. We don't really care. But we did lose that. But in addition, we did lose the Helm enchant. So, this is the Helm enchant that we'd want to go for, is 60% increased Fire Trap burning damage. That would work for both the Ignite and the Burning Ground. This was pretty good. Losing 80% increased damage for Fire Trap, that is notable. That's a lot. So the single target upside of Fire Trap will go down. With that said, that's only the single target. The single target damage on Fire Trap was already really, really high. Like, it wasn't that hard to hit the dot cap, which is 35 million. It wasn't that hard to hit, not a really big deal. Losing an 80% increase on that, maybe 1 to 2 million DPS. The big thing that's going to affect is your mid-investment level, where you have a balanced amount of increased dot multi and increased fire damage, and you might want to lean into increased damage a little bit more because there's fewer sources of it, right? Because it's proportional. I'm going to go into dot multi, increased damage. The nice thing about that for gearing is increased damage is just easier to get. That does raise the stocks of how good that modifier is by lowering your damage overall. The other thing is the quality on curses got worse. So previously elemental weakness, this is the current patch, is 10% increased effective curse, right? So by minus 30, this is actually minus 3 res, which actually works even better with our Eye of Malice right here. 3% would actually round up because we have that increased negative cold res. And so losing that kind of sucks. The default quality on flammability is longer ignites. That actually isn't changing, I think. I think it's exactly the same. It's getting buffed to 20% from 10%. However, anomalous flammability was better for us, and this would go up to the 10% curse effect, which would have been, 3.6 res. So unfortunately, that is a nerf overall. It's only a couple res, but, death by 1,000 cuts. It's a little bit worse. And then Vortex. If you played this version last league and you saw what I recommended, was actually putting Vortex on left click as well. So you would have in your 6 link here, you would actually have Vortex as well as Frostblink and in like double 5 link. And that would allow you to, even if you kind of mess up your Frostblink and it was on cooldown, you would still have Vortex going. And as you can see, Vortex has a very, very fast cooldown. So no matter what, you would either be igniting with Vortex or Frostblink. And that gives us very, very comfortable play style where no matter what, monsters are going to be, even if you're just like left clicking to walk away, you're going to be igniting and killing monsters. That was like a nice supplementary quality of life bonus that we could add to the build to make it kind of feel a little bit better to play. With that said, I didn't end up doing it personally because you lost your damage. Frostblink on a 6 link is just better. And if you can Frostblink properly in and out of a pack of monsters, it cooldowns faster if you are, hitting monsters, right? So just to demonstrate this, this is very important to playing this build. So, the default cooldown on Frostblink is 2.6 seconds in my current build. But if I Frostblink into a pack of monsters, you see it's much, much faster. And if you do it properly with enough monsters, it's going to be really, really, really fast. And you're just doing it every single pack of monsters. And like this is the play style that you don't need Vortex, right? So yeah, that's a loss, particularly for beginner players that wanted that full quality of life. They didn't want to manage their Frostblink cooldown as well. This wasn't a huge loss to the build because I didn't even use it myself personally. However, we did get some nerfs here. We did get some changes. So I do recommend considering maybe using a Diamond Flask just to get your Elemental Overload uptime a lot better. We lost the quality damage in the Helm Enchant. There's nothing to do about that. Be on the lookout for a Transfigured Fire Trap gem. They haven't shown one yet. I doubt they would give us more damage on it. Like, it's already a pure damage skill. So I don't know. They might not even make one. And then the quality on the curses being worse. With that said, the quality on the curses is increased duration. So between LE weakness and flammability, you will now get 40% increased duration of your ignites, which would allow you to use something like a Replica Ember Wake. So what a Replica Ember Wake does is it makes your ignites deal damage 45% faster. If you have no other faster ignites, then this is a more damage multiplier. However, it is just additive with itself. And also you have to realize that your ignite duration is going down as well. And since we already go into a little bit of faster ignite, it's not that much more damage, but it is pretty good. However, 90% reduced ignite duration on enemies. This effectively just goes to 50% because we're gaining 40% from the new quality. It's not that bad, but yeah, your overall damage from a single ignite does go down significantly. But it's a cute little thing you can do for just like faster damage. However, do note this is another unique ring with very little res, no life on it. So you're losing some quality of life there. Whereas conversely, what I like to do is find pure quality of life rings like this, where you can just get your stats, get your life and your res, and you can use the Essence of, I think it's Anger. Let's double check. Yeah, Essence of Anger on a ring will give you 34% increased fire damage, which is not bad. And that's about it. There isn't really too much that changed in terms of a league starter. All of this stuff doesn't really affect your league start scenario anyway. These were things that you got a little bit later regardless. In terms of getting your T16 bosses down and all that, this build is still just as good. And like I said at the beginning, I would 100% league start this if I wasn't mixing it up for variety and playing SRS this league. So yeah, if you play this league, I'm jealous of you. I hope you have a great time. And yeah, hope to see you guys on the stream. See ya.